Hello and welcome back to Mio Mio, the segment that I cannot say, but we are doing it anyways. So, in this segment, I walk you guys through real life examples of how I use the Mio exercise in my everyday life to hold myself accountable and to become a better version of myself, a better mother, a better wife, a better person, a better coach, all of the things. So the other day, I was out with a girlfriend and I was having this moment where I was just venting about some stuff that had bottled up inside. I find that we tend to do this when we're just needing validation from someone else. Like, yes, validate that I feel angry or validate my resentment, validate the fact that this thing pissed me off. Tell me that I am right for feeling this way. And I think that we commonly do this because we intuitively know that we're not designed to be feeling this way. We know that we want to let go of these emotions. We can sense that something is not right, that they are there and lingering, and that we're living in the gunk and that it's impacting us in so many other ways. And so, because we already intuitively know that we're missing whatever the gunk is trying to show us, we seek out friends that would tell us that, no, 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 you're totally fine and sitting in this gunk, right? So I was in that situation and I was venting to her about some stuff that was happening in my family dynamic. Me and my husband, we have blended our families. He has three children with his ex wife. I have one daughter with my previous partner. And then together we have a son. And so when we blended our families, our kids, for the most part, were teenagers. And if you are a parent, if you have ever parented a teenager, you know that by the time that they were a teenager, a lot of our inputs, the influence that we have, it starts to change around the age of a teenager. Now, I've actually looked into this, and this is a biological thing that happens. When you think about evolution and us from like the animalistic lens, when children are in our household, we are pretty much who is conditioning them and influencing them. And if they stay within just the family dynamic, the likelihood that they would reproduce or be out in the community and actually breed and create more humans is low. Like a lot of people would just stay in the comfort of their own home. There has to be something that pushes them out and connects them to other people and bonds them to other people outside of the household. And so what happens is there's this phenomenon that takes place where teenagers will literally be like, no to their parents. I don't want to hear what you have to say. I'm going to seek for perspective, for advice, for bonding outside of the home. This increases the likelihood that they will bond with someone else, that they will reproduce, that it will continue to lead to longevity and survival of the species, right? Once they have reproduced, once they have kind of, gone out and bonded with other people, then they tend to come back and bond back with their family and be like, oh my God, I don't know. I was horrible to you when I was a teenager. I'm so sorry. Like, I love you, right? This is not something that we have to take personally, but it's just recognizing and understanding that when they get to those teenage years, like your ability to impact them, influence them, the internal urge for them to mimic you or listen to you because you were the coolest thing ever and you're like their everything, that starts to fade. And so by the time that our families had blended, our kids were teenagers. I had raised my daughter with her father, and my husband had raised his kids with his ex. And we parent completely different. So the way that I parented my daughter, the perspectives that I shared with her, the thought processes, the way I handled parenting, it's just completely different than what my husband and his ex did with their children. And this isn't about right or wrong. It's just accepting the fact that there's those differences. And so there was some resentment building up inside of me. One, because it's hard enough to parent teenagers as it is, but when you have teenagers all in the same house and one was raised one way and the others were raised a different way, there's like some conflict and tension going on there, right? And sometimes things can feel unfair. People are held to different standards or expectations. I never had to do this before. Now all of a sudden you're wanting me to do this, right? Or like, why am I the only one that, so there's like those dynamics. But also, we parent our children the way that we parent our children because we believe in that method of parenting. And so, anytime that you have two different parents that don't see eye to eye on how to raise the child, you'll naturally see flaws in that other person's parenting style. And I was noticing some things, and it was building this resentment, especially with the youngest. So, I've noticed that there were some key things that I think are missing from like skill sets that I think are missing that I didn't see either parent taking the time to teach her: communication skills, conflict resolution skills, the ability to regulate her emotions. There was a lot of times when I felt like she wasn't able to take notice of how her actions or her feelings or lack of actions was impacting other people. There was a sense of self, but there seemed to be a disconnect between how that relates to everybody else in the family, taking other people into consideration, showing empathy, compassion, sort of having that mindset of like what I want matters, but I'm not really too concerned with what other people want. And so that showed up in many different ways. A very simple example would be if there's 5 people in the house and I make 10 cookies, so there's 2 cookies for each person, unless I'm the one divvying out the 2 cookies, it's like if I gave her the opportunity to just take the cookies, she's gonna take as many cookies as she can possibly fit on her plate without thinking about, "Okay, there's other people here. Do they want cookies? Like, how can we make sure that everybody is having this experience and it's not just about me?" At first, when I married my husband, the approach that I sort of took was like a backseat. I recognize that they have a father in their life, they have a mother in their life. I can love them, I can care for them, but I sort of took like a backseat approach, allowing my husband to have the autonomy to raise his kids the way that he felt was necessary. And so I was venting to my friend about this, and I was expressing my concern, my frustration, maybe even a little bit of my anger and resentment that she's suffering. What will happen as she grows older and she doesn't have the skill set of taking other people into consideration or conflict resolution or being able to understand that her deregulated emotions are actually impacting other people. I was expressing this to her and I was like, you know how like when you're talking to somebody and you're venting to somebody and you can like feel all that anger and resentment like bubble up and you're just like, and this and this and this and this, right? And so I was like, no one's doing it. No one's teaching her. No one's pulling her aside. Mom's waiting for dad to do it. Dad's waiting for mom to do it. Nobody's taking her aside and saying like, hey, let's talk about these things. Let's talk about these skill sets. Let's talk about this perspective. Let me share some things with you. No one's walking her through her rite of passage into being a woman and realizing that she has influence and influence of her house. What happens when she has her own family and she's not able to take into consideration the people of her family, right? And so there's all of this like stuff bubbling up for me. And I'm like, no one's doing it. No one's doing it. It's so frustrating to watch that no one's taking the initiative here. And then I heard this little voice in my head that says, why aren't you? And this is what Mirror Mirror is all about. Mirror Mirror is this exercise where instead of you projecting onto other people, you tone that insight that you have about other people and you look in the mirror and you look at your own reflection and you say, where is this showing up for me? And so the mirror exercise is all about holding yourself to standards that you want to hold other people to. Like I mentioned in previous videos, it's so important that we don't get wrapped up in the details because our brain uses the details to convince us to stay operating the way that we currently are. The reason why we're showing up the way that we are is because the brain says this is how you need to be showing up based on all past evidence and experiences. And so we have to recognize that the mind is going to try and give us all the rationale and reasons why it was right to begin with. Well, those aren't your children. They have a mother, they have a father. It's their responsibility. They're the ones that are supposed to be teaching them. This is not your responsibility, right? And so as I'm hearing those thoughts, I have to be able to rise above those thoughts when I do the mirror exercise. So I have this little voice that speaks inside my head. And here it was saying, why aren't you? Now, when we do the mirror exercise, there's two things that it allows us to do that are super beneficial. The first thing is it releases the judgment that we have towards other people and starts to draw in compassion. I know that I am a loving person. I know that I have a beautiful heart. I know that my intentions are well. I know that I love my stepdaughter. I know that I care about her and her well-being. I know all of those things about me. And if all of those things were true and I still was missing the mark on showing up for her, if I still was dodging that responsibility and waiting for other people to do it, is it also true that her parents, even though they've been dodging that responsibility and waiting for someone else to do it, right? Is it also true that they could have the best intentions, a kind heart, want what's best for her? Yes. So all of these stories I was telling myself about, they don't care. They're just dealing with it until she's 18. They're not thinking about her future relationships. They're not thinking about how a lack of conflict management or emotional regulation is going to impact her in the future. Like instead of telling myself that story, I could hold compassion for them and say, hey, if I was able to do it, of course they were able to do it. Like, it doesn't make us bad people, right? And so it gives me compassion and understanding for other people. The second thing that it does is it allows me to step into my power. Was I put in her life for a reason? I believe so. Am I in a position of influence for her? Yes. Are these things that I feel comfortable talking about and teaching on? Yes. Do I have profound insight and wisdom from helping other parents parent their children in this way by working with children directly? Like I have all of those experiences. So can I use this to help in this situation? Yes. And so it allows me the opportunity to embrace my personal power and decide to be the one. I get to be the one. I get to be the one that goes to her and shares these things and teaches her these things and offers these things to her. Now it's going to be up to her on whether she wants to do those things or not. But I get to do that. So instead of spending my energy wondering why no one else is doing it, I get to redirect that energy and show up in that way, which is such a better use of my energy and time. I will tell you that since this experience, I took this on and I was like, no more pointing fingers. No more pointing fingers at her mom or her dad or saying, why aren't you guys doing this? It became about me and whether I was going to do it. And so I've been showing up from that space. Instead of resentment and anger that she doesn't know these things, I'm showing up the same way that I showed up for my daughter, showing up from a space of, I'm a woman. I've been through these things. I love and care about you. I want to see you thrive in life. And these are some of the things I think will help you get there. And the experience that I've had with her since then has been drastically different. We are talking and communicating and sharing things with each other. She's starting to grasp some of the things that I'm saying and noticing things that I am pointing out. And, and that makes me feel good. Before I felt powerless and angry and resentful towards the situation. And now I feel empowered. I feel peace. I feel influential. I feel connected, right? And that in and of itself is such a gift, right? But I know what's coming. I know what's coming because of these conversations.